Something was seriously off about flying in the 1970s, but in the best possible way. Passengers didn't just travel, they were treated like VIPs by default. No upgrades, no loyalty points, no fine print. Just how far did it go, and what were passengers really walking into when they boarded? Well, for starters, they could actually stretch their legs. Economy class seats in the 1970s gave you 34 to 36 inches of legroom as standard. Compare that to today's 30 inches, if you're lucky. Airlines back then understood that human legs weren't designed to fold like origami. The seat width was 18 to 20 inches, which meant you could sit down without becoming conjoined twins with your neighbor. They actually believed passengers should be able to feel their own knees during flight. Airlines weren't playing human puzzle games back then. Boeing 747 jets had massive cabins, but instead of cramming in every possible seat, they left room for passengers to move around. They were giving passengers actual space instead of playing human Tetris. The whole approach was about passenger comfort, not maximizing space. You could recline your seat without starting World War III with the person behind you. Reclining was actually a feature, not an act of war. Fewer seats per plane meant more space for everyone. Airlines competed on comfort levels, not on how many people they could squeeze into a metal tube. The whole experience was designed around human dignity, not profit margins. Airlines understood that comfortable passengers were happy passengers, and they invested in making sure every flight felt spacious and relaxing. But the spacious seats were just the beginning of the luxury treatment. Airlines served complete multi-course meals in economy class that would make many restaurants jealous today. We're talking about steak, shrimp, fresh salads, hot rolls, dessert, and real coffee. Even short flights came with meals because airlines hadn't discovered the magic of overpriced snack boxes yet. Everything came on actual ceramic plates with metal silverware. No plastic forks that snap when you try to cut anything. Airlines used actual plates because apparently eating off plastic wasn't considered fine dining. The meals were prepared by in-house airline catering kitchens with their own chefs and recipes. Airlines spent $7 to $10 per passenger on meals, which equals about $40 to $60 today. That's more than most people spend on a nice dinner out. Flight attendants would come around with hot towels before meals. Airlines were flying restaurants that happened to serve meals at cruising altitude. The food quality was high because airlines took pride in their culinary offerings. The dining experience was designed to make passengers feel special. Airlines understood that good food created good memories, and they hired professional chefs to ensure every meal met restaurant standards during flight. The generous meal service was just one part of the all-inclusive experience. Alcoholic beverages were completely included in your ticket price, even in economy class. Wine, beer, whiskey, and cocktails were all free without any extra charges. Airlines operated flying bars with wings attached. On international flights, drinking was practically encouraged as part of the travel experience. Airlines figured out that tipsy passengers complained less about turbulence. They used alcohol as a way to enhance customer service, not as another profit center. The drink service involved real bartending skills. Flight attendants knew how to make proper cocktails, not just open bottles. You could order a Manhattan and actually get a Manhattan, not some watered-down disappointment. Airlines understood that relaxed passengers were happy passengers. The free drinks were an investment in customer relationships. They ran their bars like hotel lounges, not airport vending machines. Flight attendants would walk around regularly, offering refills and taking new orders. The service was attentive and generous because airlines wanted passengers to associate flying with good times and luxury experiences that kept them coming back for more flights. The free-flowing drinks were just part of an even more surprising policy. Smoking was allowed throughout most flights, including in economy class, with ashtrays built right into every armrest. Airlines turned every flight into a flying ashtray with passenger service. The lavatories had ashtrays too. There were smoking sections, but they were about as effective as having a splashing section in a swimming pool. The no-smoking section worked about as well as a no-splashing area in a pool. The air circulated throughout the entire plane. Flight attendants would walk around with matches and lighters, helping passengers light up. Cabin crew were basically flying cigarette butlers. Smoking was so normal that not smoking was considered unusual. The policy lasted much longer than you'd expect. Smoking bans didn't start until the late 1980s for domestic flights and weren't complete until 2000. People were smoking on planes well into the computer age. Airlines were basically flying ashtrays for decades. The whole cabin would fill with smoke haze, and everyone accepted it as completely normal behavior that required no special ventilation systems or health warnings for passengers or crew members. But even the smoking policy wasn't the most extravagant feature on these flights. Many long-haul jets had dedicated in-flight lounges with couches, cocktail tables, and sometimes piano bars. Airlines created social clubs that happened to fly through clouds. These weren't just extra seats, they were actual social spaces. The lounges were located in the upper deck or rear of aircraft, like the Boeing 747 and DC-10. Pan Am, American, and Continental offered stand-up bar service where passengers could walk around and socialize mid-flight. You could host cocktail parties while cruising above the weather. These spaces featured comfortable seating, mood lighting, and full bar setups. Flight attendants worked these areas like bartenders who moonlighted as safety instructors. They made sure everyone had what they needed while keeping the party atmosphere alive. The lounges were designed for passengers to stretch their legs, meet other travelers, and turn long flights into social events. Airlines understood that bored passengers were unhappy passengers. Some airlines even had live entertainment in these lounges during long flights. The whole idea was to make the journey as enjoyable as the destination, creating memorable experiences that passengers would talk about for years after landing at their final stop. Even the airports themselves were designed like luxury destinations. Airports in the 1970s were designed like luxury hotels with chandeliers, leather chairs, and wood paneling throughout the terminals. Airlines figured out that comfortable passengers bought more tickets. Walking through an airport felt like entering an elegant hotel lobby. Many airports featured cocktail lounges, full restaurants, and shoe-shining stations. Airports had shoe-shine stands because apparently looking good for your flight was a real concern. The atmosphere emphasized comfort and style over security and efficiency. The terminals were places where people actually wanted to spend time. Families would arrive early just to enjoy the atmosphere and amenities. Airports were destinations where people actually wanted to spend time. Everything was designed to make passengers feel relaxed and important. The furniture was comfortable, the lighting was warm, and the staff treated everyone like valued guests. There were no long lines, no shouting over intercoms. Airlines understood that the airport experience was part of the overall travel experience. Beautiful, comfortable terminals made passengers feel good about flying, and the whole environment was designed to reduce stress rather than create the anxiety-inducing maze of modern airport security checkpoints. This relaxed atmosphere extended to the boarding process itself. Passengers boarded planes in a relaxed manner, often walking directly from the terminal to the aircraft on the tarmac. Boarding a plane felt more like entering a restaurant than rushing for the last bus. There were no boarding zones, no long lines, and no gate agents shouting numbers. Gate agents provided personalized service and knew many frequent flyers by name. Airport staff actually remembered passengers instead of treating everyone like suspicious cargo. The whole process was designed to be stress-free and pleasant. You could walk to your gate, board your plane, and take off without any of the hassle we consider normal today. No removing shoes, no emptying pockets, no standing in endless lines. The airport operated on trust instead of treating everyone like potential criminals. The boarding process was so civilized that people looked forward to it. Families would make it a special occasion, arriving early to enjoy the terminal and then strolling onto the plane when ready. Airlines competed on how pleasant they could make the boarding experience. They wanted passengers to feel special from the moment they entered the terminal, and the entire process was designed to build excitement for the journey rather than create stress and frustration. But airlines didn't just make getting on the plane easy, they made your entire travel itinerary surprisingly flexible. Airlines often allowed free multi-day stopovers in hub cities like London, Tokyo, or New York without any extra ticketing or change fees. Airlines basically gave you free vacations just for flying through their favorite cities. This wasn't some complicated reward program. It was a standard perk to promote tourism. Some airlines advertised it as 2 cities for the price of 1 in their marketing materials. You could fly from Los Angeles to Paris and get a free weekend in London just because your plane happened to stop there. The whole concept was designed to make long international flights more appealing to passengers. Airlines understood that stopovers could turn a simple trip into an adventure. Instead of rushing passengers through connections, they encouraged them to explore major cities and experience different cultures. Why settle for one destination when you could see two or three for the same price? The stopover policies were incredibly generous compared to today's restrictions. You could stay for days or even weeks in stopover cities without paying additional airfare. Airlines saw these extended stops as marketing opportunities rather than inconveniences. This approach helped airlines fill seats on less popular routes while giving passengers incredible value. Airlines were basically travel agents who happened to own planes. The whole philosophy was about creating memorable experiences that would keep customers coming back for more international adventures. The generous stopover policies were matched by equally impressive personal service. Flight attendants were trained to learn passenger names, check in frequently, and offer personal touches that made every flight feel customized. Cabin crew treated passengers like house guests instead of cargo with boarding passes. Birthday cakes, handwritten notes, and special requests weren't uncommon during flights. Airlines emphasized hospitality over efficiency, especially on long-haul flights where personal connections could develop between crew and passengers. Flight attendants had time to actually talk to people instead of just serving drinks and disappearing. The whole service model was built around making passengers feel special and cared for. Crew members would remember your drink preferences, ask about your family, and follow up on conversations from earlier in the flight. They provided therapy, entertainment, and friendship at 35,000 feet. The training focused on emotional intelligence and customer relationships rather than just safety procedures. Airlines understood that personal attention created lasting loyalty that went far beyond price comparisons. When passengers felt genuinely cared for, they would choose the same airline repeatedly, regardless of cost differences. Flight attendants were professional relationship builders who happened to work on airplanes. The personal service extended to special occasions and life events. Crew members would celebrate anniversaries, comfort nervous flyers, and go out of their way to make flights memorable for the right reasons, creating emotional connections that turned customers into lifelong advocates for the airline. Even the reading material on these flights reflected the same attention to quality. In-flight magazines featured serious journalism, travel writing, and fiction that passengers actually wanted to read. Airlines hired actual writers instead of filling pages with advertisements. These weren't just advertising collections, they were legitimate publications. Pan Am's Clipper and TWA's Ambassador were considered high-quality publications that people looked forward to reading. In-flight magazines were so good that people would steal them to read at home. Some magazines included crossword contests with prizes and cultural essays. The advertisements reflected the luxury travel lifestyle, featuring first-class experiences, fine dining, and exclusive destinations. Even the ads were classier than most magazines you could buy at the newsstand. Airlines invested in quality content because they knew it improved the overall passenger experience. A good magazine kept people entertained and engaged during flights, making the time pass more pleasantly. The magazines also served as marketing tools, showcasing destinations and building excitement about travel. Every page was designed to inspire passengers to book more flights, and the high production values reflected the same attention to detail that airlines applied to every aspect of the passenger experience. But magazines weren't the only complimentary items passengers received during flights. Airlines handed out branded playing cards, wing pins for children, and postcards as standard amenities that passengers expected to receive. Airlines handed out more freebies than a modern conference booth. These weren't promotional giveaways. They were regular parts of the flying experience. First-class passengers received swag bags filled with toiletries, slippers, and cologne. Some airlines offered souvenir menus or luggage stickers for popular routes. Passengers needed extra carry-on space just for all the free gifts. The branded items served multiple purposes beyond just making passengers happy. They provided entertainment during flights and made passengers feel valued and special. Airlines were basically Santa Claus with jet engines. Airlines understood that small touches made big differences in customer satisfaction. The cost of these items was minimal compared to the goodwill they generated. They were buying customer loyalty one playing card at a time. Children especially loved the wing pins and other kid-friendly items. Airlines knew that happy children meant happy parents, and happy families became repeat customers who would choose the same airline for future trips, creating lifelong brand loyalty through simple gestures. First-class passengers received even more impressive amenities and service. First-class cabins featured large swivel seats, full dining tables, and meals served on real china with linen tablecloths. First class felt like flying in a luxury hotel that happened to have jet engines. Some airlines even provided candlelight during dinner service. The cabins were decorated with carpets, curtains, and mood lighting that created an elegant atmosphere. First-class sections had better furniture than most people's living rooms. Airlines spent serious money on interior design, creating spaces that felt more like upscale hotels. Flight attendants in first class were trained to provide hotel-level service, anticipating passenger needs before they were even expressed. Flight attendants were basically personal butlers who could also save your life in an emergency. The service was so attentive that some passengers probably didn't want their flights to end. Amenities included on-demand drinks, personal attention, and fold-flat beds on some carriers. Every detail was carefully planned to exceed expectations and create unforgettable experiences. First-class passengers weren't just buying transportation, they were buying status, comfort, and prestige. Airlines understood this and designed their service to match these expectations, creating an experience so luxurious that passengers felt like royalty from takeoff to landing. But here's what made the 1970s truly special for air travel. Your airline ticket included meals, drinks, baggage, seat selection, and entertainment without any additional charges. Your ticket covered everything except the destination weather. There were no fees for checked bags, no charges for headphones. Prices were higher due to government regulation, but the service was completely all-inclusive. Airlines couldn't nickel and dime passengers because the government wouldn't let them. Airlines couldn't compete on price, so they competed on service quality. Airlines had to make money by providing excellent service, not by charging fees for basic needs. Back when buying a plane ticket actually meant you could fly without paying extra fees for breathing. They filled seats through superior treatment. The all-inclusive model meant that once you bought your ticket, you could relax without worrying about additional costs. Everything was included because airlines understood that surprise charges created unhappy customers. Deregulation in 1978 changed everything by allowing airlines to compete on price. What seemed like good news turned out to be the beginning of the end for the golden age. The 70s proved that flying could be luxurious, comfortable, and truly enjoyable. Every aspect was designed around passenger happiness rather than maximum profit extraction from travelers, creating an experience that modern passengers can barely imagine existed.